Good evening and welcome. The January 11th, 2022 Liquor Board hearing is now in session. The Liquor Board has all meetings transcribed which serve as minutes of the hearings. The board keeps such minutes stored electronically, and they're available to review by calling the board for an appointment. I now make a motion that the transcripts of the previous board hearing held on December the 14th, 2021, be accepted as the board minutes for that date, and I ask for a second.
I second.
It is second. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 It is carried. Thank you. Just to note, the two cases have been postponed. That is the El Toro Bravo and Severn Liquor. So I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Praley for some comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jimmy Praley. I serve as counsel to the board. At the beginning of every meeting, I make a few brief announcements. First, the commissioners before you tonight are part-time public servants, and they all have other outside interests. When they know they have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest, they recuse themselves. However, due to the number of cases that this board hears on any given night, be impossible for each member to know who would appear from the public in any given matter. Therefore, if anybody believes that a commissioner or commissioners, as the case may be, have a conflict of interest in any matter, you have to announce that to us when your case is called, and we'll address it at that point. Otherwise, we will proceed forward under the assumption that there is no conflict of interest. Secondly, the board's rules and regulations provide that the chair, for the purpose of administrative and judicial economy, can have the board's counsel rule on the admissibility of evidence and objections if objections are made or there are questions with regards to admissibility. This board handles many cases at every hearing, so to expedite the hearings, rather than the chairman coming to me advising the chairman making a decision, in some instances, I will simply make a ruling and my ruling will be that of the chair. As everyone can see, we are back in a virtual land tonight. The board has adopted special rules and regulations as other jurisdictions have. Our rules and regulations are available online. Pursuant to those rules, anyone who wishes to be heard tonight, who is not a participant in a specific proceeding and the applicant's case, needs to submit written testimony to the board at least 5 days prior to the hearing date. Any submitted writings are automatically accepted as an exhibit to any given case. Other than that, while members of the public are certainly free to view tonight's proceeding, members of the public are not going to be allowed to participate in the hearing other by way of previously submitted written testimony. Finally, renewal season is right around the corner. As has been customary and the policy of the board and its administration, this board is unable to process and issue new licenses and transfers for the time period between February 28th and May 1st, 2022. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Chief Inspector, Mr. Harris, who will call the first case.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Praley. Wayne Harris, Chief Inspector. The first case would be Camp Mead Liquors, known as CM Liquors, Inc. Frederick D. Medley, President, Secretary, and Treasurer. Jashandeep Singh, Clerk. Detective T. Middleton, number 1061, and Detective Zapata, number 1239, and Sergeant White, number 1329. A liquor inspector is Inspector Nicholas McGarvey. This is a Class A license for beer, wine, and liquor, beer, wine tasting, and Sunday privileges. 452 Camp Mead Road, Linthicum, Maryland, 21090. There are no restrictions on this license. The violations are as follows: violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a, minors. RE Anne Arundel County Police Report number 21-737687 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident is dated November 5th, 2021. Second violation is violation of the Alcoholic Beverage 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304. Selling or providing alcoholic beverages to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE Anne Arundel County Police Report 21 -737687 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident is dated November 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Okay, do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Brian Lyman, Lyman. I'm counsel for the licensee, Camp Mead Liquors. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. My name is Jashandeep Singh. I work as clerk at Camp Mead Liquors.
Spell your name for the record, please.
Jashandeep and Singh Singh.
I'm Frederick Medley,
Need your address, sir, please.
8251 Southern Maryland, 21144.
Okay, thank you all. Mr. Fraley?
All right, thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Lyman, good to see you this evening. This is a COVID-19 hearing. It's virtual. So for the record, I'm going to ask Corporal Middleton to read his report.
Good evening. Corporal Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, assigned to Western District. This incident occurred on November 5th of 2021, approximately 5:45 p.m. Detective Cepeda, Sergeant White, myself are working Operation Save, conducting compliance checks of retail businesses in the area. We directed a confidential source who was 19 years of age, who we verified the age through Maryland Department of Motor Vehicles. I have a certified copy of the driving record to prove the CS was indeed 19 years of age. We had the CS enter the Camp Mead Liquors at 452 North Camp Mead Road in Linthicum, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source go in, and he picked out an 18-pack of natural light beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the natural light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the CS for any identification. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to us outside. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience that the natural light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Cepeda and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, identified the clerk as Jasdeep Singh with the birth date of November 4th, 1998, from his New York driver's license. He advised that he did not ask for identification. We took a photograph of Mr. Singh, his driver's license, and attached it to the report. And a photograph was taken of the natural light beer and it was destroyed. And we forwarded a copy of this report to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. And that would be our statement of facts.
All right, thank you, Corporal Middleton. Mr. Lyman, any questions of Corporal Middleton?
Corporal Middleton, was the clerk cooperative?
Yes. Yeah,
And
they were
was he
quite
polite?
Yes.
And did you have any other observations about the state of the establishment while you were there?
It was a very busy night. There was a lot of people coming and going inside the store while we sat right out front watching our CS go in.
Very good. Thank you. No further questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyman. Mr. Chairman, any questions of
I
Corporal
have no
Middleton?
questions, no.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No, this is Commissioner Duff. I have no questions.
Okay, Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lyman, we'll turn it over to you. You can present your case by way of proffer testimony or a combination of both.
Thank you, Mr. Fraley. My client has elected to admit the violation, and I'd like to be heard briefly on mitigation and the potential penalties.
Sure, absolutely. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Fraley. As Corporal Middleton pointed out, the first issue is that this is a pretty busy evening. It was an evening rush on a Friday night, I believe. And the clerk was actually short-staffed. It wasn't his fault that the store was short-staffed, but they just had a couple of employees leave the employee in the weeks prior, and they've been having trouble finding additional employees to fill in. So that's just the context for how this happened. It was a busy evening. The clerk was doing his best to try to make it through the line and service the customers in a timely manner. I will say that he's related to me that the confidential source was wearing a mask. He was approximately 6 feet tall and presented as someone that he looked at briefly and believed that might be over 30 years of age. That was the policy previously. The policy now is going to be 100% ID checks at Camp Mead Liquors, and it has been since the violation occurred. The licensee is also in process of trying to obtain ID scanners for the point of sale systems, and their vendor has indicated that the current system does not have them or have that capability, but they are going to get a separate device and order it separately to scan and check IDs. The licensee here takes the duty and obligation seriously. Mr. Medley and I have been over this, and he's not interested in being in front of this board again for a violation of this nature. This is a good faith mistake. Mr. Singh has been employed by the liquor store for approximately 3 years without any prior issues. And Mr. Medley has been the licensee, I believe, since 2011 without any other underage service issues before this board. With that, I would ask the board to consider an appropriate merger of the two counts and issue a fine that's fair and in accordance with the board's prior fines, and admonish the licensee and clerk appropriately.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyman. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Mr. Lyman or the licensee or the clerk?
I don't have a question. I've got a couple of comments here, or maybe a question. The offense happened in November, and you're coming before us in January, and you're saying you're going to get a device that's going to correct this. Now, I'm just curious when that's going to happen. And
as I understand it, it was a pretty busy season for the point of sale vendors. And so, as you well know, the bulk of alcohol sales in the retail market happens in November and December. They started investigating with their vendor, and they just haven't made any progress. And I believe that the devices themselves were not available to work with this point of sale system. So they've been researching what they need to do, and that's been the problem. And I know that sounds like an excuse, but that's a frank answer to your question, Chairman Maloney.
okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Mr. Lyman has stated that the establishment was established in 2011, and they haven't had a violation since 2011. But according to my notes, I have them have had a violation as late as 3/10 and 20, as well as in 2/28 and 17. So this makes the third violation within 4 years.
Mr. Duffy, I apologize. If I didn't say it, I meant to say it. I think that this is the first underage service violation. And,
Okay.
And I
That may be-
apologize. I'm really not trying to mislead the board. I'm saying this particular issue of serving someone who's underage, I don't believe there've been prior violations for this particular issue. You're absolutely correct. The board has seen Mr. Medley before, and we had an issue with the comptroller that the board dealt with previously in 2020 in March, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. And I apologize if I misunderstood.
Well, no, it was perhaps my miscommunication. I should be the one apologizing, Commissioner.
Oh, thank you very much, sir, for the clarification. I have no other additional questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Duffy. Commissioner Snoops, anything?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Lyman, anything you'd like to add before we turn it over to the chairman and the board for deliberation and decision?
Anything else, Mr. Medley? Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm not sure that 2017, that's 5 years ago. It's no problem. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we fine we combine both the violations and that violation 1 and 2, and that we levy a $700 fine plus court costs. And I'll ask for a second.
I would second that to combine both counts with the $700 fine.
Okay, though, any further discussion from the board? No? Seeing that, I call the question. Those in favor, say aye.
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 It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good
Next
night.
case. Next case will be JP's Liquor Fair, known as AA Long N Corporation, Yi Mun Singh, President, Mi Young Zai, Secretary, Yan Ping Chen, Assistant Secretary, Chan Young Lee, Clerk, Detective Zapata, number 1239, the Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective T. Middleton, 1061. The inspector is Nicholas McGarvey. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor with beer, wine, spirit tasting, and Sunday license privileges, located at 6 Nursery Road. Yep, I think I have the wrong one there. I apologize. That is a Class D beer, wine, and liquor license, music and Sunday, located at 6736 Ritchie Highway, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. This establishment has restrictions that one dated 8/27/2002. All employees must be certified in state-approved alcohol awareness program within 30 days of hiring. Also, 7/8/2008, a management agreement must be on file if a licensee is not on the premises at all times. The violations are as follows: violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. Chapter 4, Section 4.01, Little A minors, RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-737-689 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident dated November 5th, 2021. Second violation, alcoholic beverages 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304. Selling or providing alcoholic beverages to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-737-689 by Detective Zapata, number 1239. Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. This incident dated also November 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hands. Okay, hold your hands up, your right hand, yes. All right, thank you. You solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do. Okay, please state your name and addresses for the record.
Detective Charles Cepeda, Anne Arundel County Police Department.
Okay. Mr. Bittner, can you have your people?
Please state your name.
Okay, my name is Yan Ping Chen, and my address is 6901 Goth Street, Bowie, Maryland, typical 20715.
My name is Kiyon Xie, address 1207 Great Craft Lane, 21113, Old Town, Maryland.
Good
Okay,
evening. I'm Richard Bittner, BITTNER. I represent the licensees. If the board please, Happy New Year to everyone, and we would enter a denial to the allegations.
okay, thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Fraley.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Bittner. As this is a COVID-19 hearing, I'm going to ask Detective Spada to read the report into the record.
Good evening, Council.
Brief add or pose an objection to the reading of the report. It's question and answer mode, if the board please. I don't believe Detective Cepeda authored the report.
Understood, Mr.
Detective
Bittner.
Middleton, and I'll submit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That'll be overruled. Go ahead, Detective.
Thank you. Well, on November 5th, 2021, approximately 18:39 hours, myself, Detective Middleton, and Sergeant White were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, male, 19 years of age, to enter JP Liquor Fair, which is located at 6736 Ritchie Highway in Glen Burnie, Anne Arundel County. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went into the establishment, picked out an 18-pack of natural light beer. The confidential source was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the natural light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source.
Objection, if I please. Basis of knowledge. I understand he was reading the report. He's interjected something that wasn't there in line 2. And now I object the basis of knowledge, and I object it's not a verbatim reading of the report. It just said that the confidential source was male. That's nowhere reflected in the report.
Okay, your objection is noted for the record, Mr. Bittner. That'll be overruled. Detective, please continue.
Thank you. Confidential source went into the store and picked out an 18-pack of natural light beer. Confidential source was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the natural light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source for identification. The confidential source afterwards exited the business and immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to myself, Detective Middleton, and Sergeant White. We know from our training, knowledge, and experience, the natural light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Middleton and I then entered the establishment, identified ourselves as police officers, and positively identified the clerk as one Chang Young Lee, as a date of birth of January 25th, 1976. Mr. Lee advised that he forgot to check for identification. He also advised that he had been working the store for approximately 10 hours and has had the alcohol training in the past. A photograph was taken of Mr. Lee, and his identification was attached to this report. The photograph was then taken of the natural light beer. Beer was then subsequently destroyed. A photograph was taken of the liquor board license. This is the statement of facts related to this case.
Okay, thank you, Detective. Mr. Bittner, questions?
Where, good evening to you, Officer Cepeda. I apologize. Where were you physically located when what you just read happened?
We were outside the establishment inside our
Can't
vehicle.
see inside the establishment from where you were located, correct?
That's correct.
You didn't see any of this actually happen, did you?
No.
Now, you mentioned that the confidential source was a male. That's not contained in the report, is it?
No, but I have a copy of the male's identification through MVA photograph and record,
All right.
which is certified.
So I'll object to any reference to that document or its admission. On December the 16th, we requested that the board provide documents of any copies of any documents they intended to rely on. We weren't provided that, and I'll submit.
That's noted. We'll overrule it.
Now, you indicated that the clerk told you he had been working for about 10 hours. Report said 10 years, so
Yeah.
10 hours is correct.
10 hours is correct.
Okay, thank you, and please stay safe.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, any
I have
questions?
no questions.
Okay, Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bittner, this is your chance to present. As you are well aware, you can do so by way of proffer, some testimony, or a combination of both, but we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. As to the merits, my clients don't have anything to present. It in fact is true that on November the 5th, their clerk sold alcohol to an underage person. I would like to be heard an explanation of how that occurred, what happened prior and what's happened since with JP's Liquor. First off, Mr. Lee, if I may, Mr. Lee had been working for about 3 weeks, for about 1 year as a stock clerk. He didn't have any counter experience until approximately 3 weeks before the incident. As certainly the board's aware, there's a lack of employees in the industry. Good help has always been hard to find. Any establishment of this nature is only as strong as its weakest link, as are most organizations. But particularly and recently since COVID, with increased demand, with increased traffic, there have been less workers. So Mr. Lee, who had been a good clerk, stock clerk, they asked him to begin working the counter about 3 weeks before this happened. When the incident occurred, Miss Zhang, who's a licensee, she was excused because of flu-ish symptoms, and thank the board for that. She was present on site. She was actually on a dinner break in the back. The confidential source came in, he was served. Mr. Lee, having been on the counter for only about 3 weeks, and that wasn't full-time or all the time. He had not yet undergone alcohol tips TAM certification. My clients tell me that their knowledge he never has. The report makes reference that he had some type of training. We've submitted the certifications from the establishment to you, and you have them in your file, but we've submitted them as exhibits, and I request they be admitted. And he was not certified. He would not have any event had to have been certified at that point, just being on the counter for some 3 weeks. In any event, he's not here, and he's not here because the young man, the gentleman, he felt so aggrieved personally, and I think that's a tribute to him and to the relationship that he had with my clients. He just quit. They didn't want to fire him because he had done a good job as a clerk. They thought, even in spite of this, that he had promise. And again, they knew him. One thing that they knew of him, he was honest. So they weren't intending to fire him, but he quit. I can't come here and tell you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that they don't have a scanner. They do. They use it. They have signs. They're warning. They're up. This is a family owner operated business. It's been operated by my client since 2013. They're there every day. The last incident I believe they had was from March of 2019. So I would ask the board to consider all of those factors and enter a modest fine in this case. They're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have no question. No,
I'm
I
sorry.
haven't. No, I have no questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Duffy. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Did you have something that you wanted to say?
No, I'll just hold off. I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Bittner, anything you would like to add, sir, before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think, Mr. Bittner's a modest fine?
Well, I believe last time the board imposed a fine of $300, and I would ask for the same.
Well, that's not quite true, but I just want to clear up the fact. Did the clerk have training or not have training? According to the report, it says he had training.
Not by my clients, not to my client's knowledge.
Okay.
He'd been employed only in a stock capacity. He didn't work the counter. He didn't dispense alcohol. He had that for about a year. So if he had it somewhere else or thought he had it, we did not provide that.
Okay,
Under the license, we have to provide it within 30 days. And it was their intention
right,
going forward to have it done. And they would have done it, but he quit.
gotcha. All right, thank you. I'm just looking at the overall, twice in 2019, they were cited for serving under the age of 21. And that was pre-COVID, I understand, and I understand people are wearing masks today, but I'm going to make a motion that we combine both of the offenses.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the one, as I read the record, and your reading certainly will control, but it was a violation from November of 2018 and a violation from March of 2019 that came to the board in 2019. So they were very close in time, but not in the same year, several months ago.
Well, I have, our records are showing that on February 12th, there was the Sting hearing, I guess. And then on, and that was 2019, and then 6/25 on 2019, another Sting. So those are the records that we have. So,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, those are the hearings. So there was a hearing, there were two hearings on 2019.
okay. So we had two hearings.
And if the board please, I believe your files will also reflect that subsequent to that, there were two inspections with no violations.
Excuse me a minute. I'll just pass for a minute. If any of the other commissioners have comments, I'll be right back. Seeing none.
If I could just add, those are inspections from the inspector. They don't have anything to do with the police officers and compliance checks.
So in other words, these have nothing to do with save report.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, the inspections Mr. Bittner just referenced, those were the inspection from our inspectors. That did say no violations, but those are not the compliance checks.
okay.
Right.
Well, and if I may, that's Mr. Chairman, members.
I was going to give Mr. Bittner, I was going to give you the opportunity to ask questions based on this additional testimony that's gone on the
Thank you.
record.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions of Mr. Aronson while we have him regarding the two hearings that were referenced for the record and the follow-up inspections, which we now have on the record were merely inspections from the inspector assigned to that location?
No, this is Commissioner Duff. I have no additional questions.
Mr. Chairman, do you have any, I'm sorry, I caught you when you were taking a sip of water. Do you have any? Do you have
No
any
questions. We're-
Commissioner Stokes, any additional questions?
No, I have
Okay.
no questions.
Mr. Bittner, do you have any questions based on that new testimony?
Mr. President, I don't have any question, but if I may, in
Sure.
response to Commissioner Duffy's comments, that's correct. They were inspections by your agency, by your own inspectors that found no violations. And I don't believe that Detective Cepeda can address this. I've addressed this with other members of SAVE. SAVE doesn't keep statistics. There's no runs. They don't provide them. So you don't know, I don't know, the public doesn't know how many times they come and my clients have passed. So all the board has are that your agencies come and they pass. And I think that's salient. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bittner.
I think for the record, there are, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the task force save does record those people who have passed. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, is that what Mr. Bittner referred to?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, are you asking somebody a question?
Yeah, I'm just
about-
basically saying, I thought, he, obviously they failed, but he was pointing out that they never know when they pass. Is that, did I misread that? And I know it's tough because he has a mask on and it's hard for me to pick that up, but
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask Detective Middleton, we never historically did that, but we are starting that in 2022. Anybody who passes compliance fails, obviously, but we're keeping records of everything from now on.
okay,
2022 going forward.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Detective.
And they will get a letter as well saying they passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bittner, do you have any additional questions with the detective with his new testimony?
No, thank you.
All right, thanks. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm gonna, in lieu of all we've talked about here, I'm gonna levy a fine of $700 combining both cases, both incidents, if you will, plus court costs. And I ask for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I second the motion.
It is second. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, it's carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You all stay safe. See you in a little while.
You too.
In a bit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Third case this evening is Murph's Liquors, known as Keshav Das Inc. B. Patel, President, Secretary and Treasurer, N.I. Patel, Vice President. Prakash Patel is the clerk, Detective Zapata, number 1239. And Sergeant White, number 1329, Detective T. Middleton, number 1061, Inspector is Jacqueline Alsop. This is a Class D license, beer, wine, and liquors, music and Sunday license, located at 6023 Ritchie Highway, Baltimore, Maryland, 21225. There are no restrictions on this license. There are two violations. First one being a violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01A, minors. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-737-691 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, Sergeant White 1329, and Detective Middleton 1061. The incident dated November 5th, 2021. Second violation is violation of the Alcoholic Beverages 1, Titles 1 through 12 of the Annotated Code of Maryland. Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-737-691 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, and Sergeant White, number 1329. Detective Middleton, number 1061. This incident is dated November 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Mr. Hurdle, there you go. Thank you. All right, keep your hands raised, please. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Did everyone answer?
Yes, everyone said I do.
Okay, thank you. Please read or state your name and address for the record.
My address is, my name is Prakash Patel and my address is 7870 Americana Circle, apartment T3.
Naveen Kumar Patel, 7444 10-yard Knoll Lane, Lamberni, Maryland, 21060.
Naveen Patel, 6808, item Bridgeland, Laurel, Maryland, 20706.
So we had the clerk and the two licensees referenced in the citation documents. Read their address and information in the record.
Thank you, Mr. Fraley.
Okay, again, this is a COVID-19 hearing, so we're not going to waive the reading of Corporal Middleton's report. Corporal, I'm going to ask you to read your report into the record if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Good evening, board. Again, it's Corporal Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, assigned to Western District. This incident was November 5th of 2021, approximately 7:06 p.m. in the evening time. Detective Cepeda, my Sergeant White, and I were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source who was 19 years of age to enter the Murph's liquor store. And I'd just like to say that we confirmed the age of our confidential source by receiving a certified copy of MVA records of the confidential source to verify a certified copy for age. The CS entered the Murph's Liquors at 6023 Ritchie Highway, which is located in Brooklyn, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the store. He picked out a 12-pack of Miller Lite beer, was given Anne Arundel County official funds, was able to purchase a Miller Lite from the clerk when the clerk did not ask our CS for identification. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the Miller Lite beer from the clerk to us. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience that Miller Lite beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Cepeda, myself, entered the store, identified the clerk as Prakash Patel, May 10th of 1973. He advised me that he forgot to check for identification. He advised he's been working at the store for approximately 6 months. A photograph was taken of Mr. Patel as an identification. A photograph was taken of the Miller Lite beer and it was subsequently destroyed. A photograph was taken of the Anne Arundel County liquor license, which was hanging on the wall. A copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, and that would be our statement of facts.
All right, thank you, Corporal Middleton. Mr. Hurdle, any questions of Corporal Middleton?
Mr. Corporal Middleton, were they cooperative?
Yes.
And did you have any other observations of the store when you were in there?
It was quiet. It wasn't very busy. We were the only ones in there, but he was polite, cooperative.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hurdle. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
No questions. No.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Yes, I have a question of, Corporal Middleton in reference to, did the clerk at any point in time say that he had received training?
No, I did not get any information. Usually they tell us or try to show us a card. I would have written that in the report, but I don't recall any type of TAMS training or, that he told us that night.
Okay, so you don't recall him making a statement that he had received tip training at any point in time within 6 months? I have before me your report. Okay, I asked the question because it wasn't indicated in your report.
Yeah, I didn't have any record of that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any additional questions, Mr. Duffy?
No, sir, I have no additional questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions of Corporal Middleton?
I have no questions.
All right. Mr. Hurdle, this is your chance to present your client's case to the board. You can do so by way of proper testimony or a combination of both. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to proffer if that's acceptable. And again, I apologize, I don't have a fancy camera system like the other two attorneys. It's just, I have to move the iPad around. So you're gonna get just me. We would admit to the violation at this time and offer mitigation if the board would hear us.
Absolutely.
So I have spoken to my clients with regards to alcohol awareness training. If everyone is trained in terms of licensees and clerks, it is my understanding from my clients that everyone, in fact, at the store is trained in alcohol awareness. including the clerk in question. Regardless of that, they're going to be redoing all of the alcohol awareness training for all of the clerks going forward, as well as all licensees. It'll happen more than likely in the next 2 weeks as a consequence of the violation. They have made changes since the date of the violation. Their point of sale system doesn't have a direct link to verify the ID, but they have used and utilized, I guess their lottery system does have a verification system of a driver's license, and they'll be using that on every transaction going forward. So they will institute a policy that not only verifies identification, but also checks its authenticity through the lottery system that they have at the store going forward. They've also indicated to me that they're going to implement just certain rules and policies that should make it less likely going forward to have any of these violations. They've been open for 3 years. It is my understanding that they've had no violations of any kind, and certainly no underage service violations going forward. At this time, we would ask that the board, of course, be lenient and to merge the 2 violations at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hurdle. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Yep. Just when you talk about the lottery system, is that the lotto you're talking? Or
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so that's how you're going to check that out. Okay, no other questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
I have no questions.
All right. Mr. Hurdle, do you have anything else you'd like to add, sir, before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and a decision?
Not at this time. I'd just like to say that it's always a pleasure coming before the board on a personal note. And I always appreciate Mr. Aronson's efficiency in terms of handling, kind of getting to this stage.
He keeps us in line. He and Judy keep us in line.
Absolutely.
All right, with that, I'll turn it over to the chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for those comments. Appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and impose a $400 fine combining both plus court costs, and looking for a second.
I second that motion of $400 combined.
Motion is second. Any discussion further? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. May we be excused?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Next case, Nursery Road Liquors, known as Liquor Nursery LLC, Hiram Shangala, President, David Gavigan, Vice President, Atash H. Zenzuraladia, CIO, Amanda Kate Ross, Clerk, Detective Zapata, number 1239, Sergeant White, number 1329, Detective Tom T. Middleton, number 1061, and Inspector Nicholas McGarvey. This is a Class A license, beer, wine, and liquor, beer, wine, and spirit tasting and Sunday license located at 6 Nursery Road, Linthicum, Maryland, 21090. There are no restrictions. 2 violations are as follows. Violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, Chapter 4, Section 4.01A, minors. RE Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-737688 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, and Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. The incident dated November 5th, 2021. Violation number 2 is a violation of the Alcoholic Beverages 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverage to an individual under the age of 21. RE Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-737688 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, Sergeant White 1329, and Detective Middleton 1061. The incident dated also November 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Mr. Howes, do you have anybody with you? You're muted, Mr. Howes. Your audio is muted, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now, Wayne?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
All right, do you have any, you're muted again, Mr. Howes. Mr. Howes, again.
Yeah,
you're muted.
okay, I got it.
Okay, and can you unmute your witnesses so they can answer questions?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Okay, everyone raise your right hands, please. That's going to testify. Okay, do you solemnly declare under the penalty? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay,
Yes.
please state your name and addresses for the record.
Detective Charles Cepeda, Anne Arundel County Police Department.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Zinwadi,
Hitesh Zinjuwadia, 6211 Springstone Place, Clifton, Virginia, 20124.
okay.
Hiren Singala, 14698 Richard Simpson Lane, Centerville, Virginia, 20121.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zinwadi, didn't have your hand raised at the time. Did you take the oath, sir?
Yep. Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fraley.
All right, thank you, Chief Inspector Harris.
Thank you.
Detective, this is a COVID-19 hearing. As such, I'm going to ask you read your report into the record for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On November 5th, 2021, at approximately 1800 hours, myself, Detective Middleton, and Sergeant White were working Operation SAVE, which is conducting alcohol compliance checks within retail business establishments. We directed a confidential source, 19-year-old male, to enter the Nursery Road Liquors, which is located at 6 Nursery Road, Linthicum, Maryland, Anne Arundel County. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The confidential source went to the establishment and picked out a bottle of Caprico Sangria. The confidential source was given official Anne Arundel County funds and was able to purchase the Caprico Sangria from the clerk. The clerk did not ask the confidential source for identification. Confidential source then exited the business immediately, turned over the alcoholic beverage to myself, Detective Middleton, and Sergeant White. We know through our training, knowledge, and experience that Caprico Sangria is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Middleton and I then entered the establishment, identified ourselves as police officers, and subsequently identified the clerk as Amanda Kate Ruse. Has a date of birth of January 26, 1987. Via her Maryland identification card, she advised that she forgot to card the confidential source and has only been working at the store for approximately 1 month. She further advised that she has not had the alcohol training. The manager worked at the establishment, is identified as, I hope I'm saying it correctly, Grand Sham Patel. A photograph was then taken of Mr. Ruse and her identification card and is also attached to this report. The photograph was also taken of the Caprico Sangria alcoholic beverage and then was subsequently destroyed. These are the statement of facts related to this case.
All right, thank you, Detective. Mr. Howes, any questions of the detective based on that report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fraley. Detective Cepeda, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Was the clerk cooperative with you on the evening in question, sir?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And can you tell me when the CS entered the store, was he wearing a mask, a COVID mask?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me about how tall he was, sir?
Approximately 6 foot.
Okay. And the clerk had indicated to you that she had been working there for an insufficient amount of time to have gotten the alcohol awareness training. Is that correct?
That's correct. She advised myself, Detective Middleton, she had not received the training.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
All right. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of the detective?
No questions.
Commissioner Dovey, any questions?
I have no question.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions or comments?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Howes, we'll turn it over to you. You can present your client's case by way of testimony or proffer or combination of both.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fraley. Good evening, members of the board. Let me begin by saying that we intend to enter a plea of admit to both of the charges in this particular case. There are extenuating circumstances, as Mr. Zinjuadia and Mr. Shingala would testify if we went forward with their testimony, but I don't think it's necessary under the circumstances. As you know, they are very competent, and they run a very nice, friendly family business known as Nursery Road Liquors. They've owned that business since 2015, for almost 7 years now. And they have had one violation in the past of an underage sale in 2017, but that's some 5 years ago. The occasion in question, similar to Mr. Bittner's case, this young lady had become an employee of Nursery Road Liquors, the clerk. She had not been through alcohol awareness training. She was presented by the request by the CS to sell the alcoholic beverage. He had a mask on, he was tall. She should have checked his identification, and unfortunately she didn't. This was an error, and it shouldn't have happened. But unfortunately, sometimes things like this do happen, and my clients are very apologetic for the fact that it's happened. I can tell you that Miss Roos, the young lady that made the sale, felt very, very badly about potentially getting her employers in trouble and having to answer for these charges to the board, that she very similarly was so embarrassed and ashamed that she left her employment after a short period of time. I can also tell you that the owners have done everything under their control to ensure that this never happens again. They have made sure that all of their employees are now alcohol awareness certified. And some of them they haven't gotten the certificates for yet, but they've all been through the training. And even the owners have gotten the training necessary. So I would ask that, that the board combine the two counts, that if anything is appropriate under the circumstances, it would be some kind of minimal fine in lieu of any kind of suspension or revocation of their license. And I thank you very much for your attention this evening.
All right, thank you, Mr. Howes. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
No questions. No.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Making noises.
No, I have no questions.
All right, Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, Mr. Howes, anything you'd like to add before it goes to the board for deliberation and decision, sir?
No, I think that's about it. Thank you, Mr. Fraley.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yeah, just briefly. So all the employees are going to go through the alcohol awareness training?
They have been through now, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir.
They have been. Okay. Is there any other thoughts or procedures that you're going to put in place so this doesn't happen again?
Well, we're going to implement 100% identification checks to be sure that the board can be satisfied that this is not going to happen again in the future.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we fine the establishment $500. We combine both counts. Fine of $500 plus court costs. And I'm looking for a second.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I'll second the motion.
Second the motion. Any discussion further? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. You're excused. Next case, Cheverdy's Liquors, known as Cheverdy's Liquors, Inc. Albert Cheverdy, President.
I think we just lost Wayne.
I hope it's not serious.
Yeah, he just. Mr. Aronson, are you there? And do we know what's going on with?
I'm always here, and we're working on it.
What's going on with Wayne?
We're working on it.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Bittner, just a minute. We're going to try to get Inspector Harris back on here.
Certainly, thank you.
There we go.
Okay, I apologize. Somehow we had a technical difficulty there. I'm gonna start over. Cheverty Liquors, known as Cheverty Liquors, Inc. Albert Cheverty, President. Z. Chevertian, Treasurer. Jerry C. Cheverty, Vice President. Sean Richard Mead as Clerk. Detective Zapata, 1239. Sergeant White, 1329. Detective T. Middleton, 1061. The inspector is Anthony Harmon. This is a Class A establishment for beer, wine, and liquor and Sunday privileges. 6721 Chesapeake Center Drive, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061. They do have a restriction dated 6/27/2000, where all employees and licensees must be certified in a state-approved alcohol awareness program within 60 days. Violations are as follows: violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. Chapter 4, Section 4.01, little a minors, RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report 21-737690 by Detective Zapata, number 1239, Sergeant White, 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. Incident dated November 5th, 2021. Second violation of alcohol beverage 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304. Selling or providing alcoholic beverages to an individual under the age of 21 years. RE, Anne Arundel County Police Report, number 21-737690 by Detective Zapata, 1239, Sergeant White, 1329, and Detective Middleton, 1061. Incident dated November 5th, 2021. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand.
Keep your voice up.
Okay, and please keep your hands raised. You solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record. We'll start with the corporal.
Corporal Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, assigned to Western District.
Thank you.
Sean, MEYD is my address is 362 Flag Court, apartment T1, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061.
Albert Cheverty, 8245 Bull Lake Road, Baltimore, Maryland.
And Jerry Cheverty, 8245 Bull Neck Road, Baltimore, Maryland.
Good morning, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Richard Bittner, BITTNER, on behalf of the licensee. Enter a denial to the charges. In the instance, if I may, of brevity, I'll incorporate my objections made in JP's Liquor as part of the hearing in this case, objecting to the mode of the testimony of the officer with a verbatim or semi-verbatim read, introduction of documents that we haven't received, and lack of personal knowledge. And I'll submit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bittner. I appreciate you making those objections up front. We'll overrule those objections. This is a COVID-19 hearing, and I would ask that Corporal Middleton provide his statement of facts for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening again, Corporal Middleton. This was on November 5th of 2021, approximately 6:52 p.m. in the evening time. Detective Zapata, Sergeant White, and myself were working Operation Save, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks at retail businesses. We directed a confidential source who we verified through MVA records, 19 years of age, to enter the Cheverty's Liquors at 6721 Chesapeake Center Drive, Suite 100 in Glen Burnie, located in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds, entered the business, was able to purchase natural light beer. It was an 18-pack. The clerk did not ask the CS for identification. The CS made the purchase, exited, gave us the alcoholic beverage, which I recognize through my training, knowledge, experience to be an alcoholic beverage, the natural light beer. We entered the store, myself, Detective Serpetta, and identified the clerk, who was identified as Sean Mead, date of birth of May 20th, 1971. I spoke to Mr. Mead. He advised he forgot to check for identification. He did advise he has had the TAMS alcohol training. He's been working at the store for approximately 3 years. He was very cooperative. A photograph was taken of Mr. Mead, the Natural Light beer, which was subsequently destroyed. And also a photograph of the Anne Arundel County liquor license, which was hanging inside the store on the wall. That would be our statement of the incident that occurred that night.
Okay, thank you, Corporal Middleton. Mr. Bittner, any questions for Corporal Middleton?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, any questions of Corporal
No
Middleton?
questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
I have no questions, sir.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Mr. Bittner, we'll turn it over to you. You can go ahead and present your client's case by way of proper testimony or a combination of both.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. If the board please, I'd like to make a proffer on their behalf. We don't have any proffer that goes to the merits of the case. We would concede that they're subject to a violation. We'd just like to be heard of mitigation.
Absolutely.
Conceding based on the evidence adduced, not an admission.
Sure, you can go right ahead, Mr. Bittner, in mitigation.
Thank you. As you heard from Detective Middleton, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, Mr. Mead was very cooperative with them. And the Shavardi family would expect nothing less of an almost 4-year employee. This is a family-run business. It's Mr. and Mrs. Shavardi, husband and wife, and Mr. Shavardi's father. Over the last 29 years that the family has had the business, children and various other family members, cousins and nephews and neighbors have been employed. And Mr. Mead has been there 4 years. And to the Shavardi's credit, they value his employee. He was alcohol awareness trained, as are all point servers in the business, and we've submitted those documents to you. And they're vigilant. They had, in the 29 years of holding the license, this is only the 3rd time that they've appeared before you. And I suggest most respectfully that this is aberrant conduct. Mr. Mead had been out for about, I'm advised, for about 2 weeks with COVID. He didn't work for several weeks. He came back. He had been back to work for several days while he was suffering from COVID. And when he came back to work, his father was suffering from COVID. And in fact, on the day in question, back on November the 5th, his father was in intensive care, and later, 2 days later, succumbed to his illness. And Mr. Mead and the Shavardi family advised me that, you know, they noticed, as anyone would be, as we could all assume, that Mr. Mead, you know, wasn't his normal self those days. And this is a case, most respectfully, where he just missed it. This establishment is well run. They have card readers, they have signage. It's owner operated every day. I'd ask you to take all of that into consideration, and I'd ask you to impose a modest fine, perhaps of $250. They're happy to answer any questions of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I have no questions. No.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions of Mr. Bittner or his clients?
Yes, Mr. Bender, if you would, please. I see from our report that they was on a 1-year probation as of 6/27 in 2000. For the 1 year of probation. And I recognize the fact that that was a long time ago, But in reference to that, not having to deal with the sting of today and the SAV, the SAVE program, my question is, being aware of the suspension 19 years ago, 21 years ago, and they have taken precaution and been proactive since that time. Do you foresee them being proactive in the future in reference to following the rules and regulations of the board of commission and the board?
Yeah, we're gonna be very vigilant. We've already started being vigilant.
Commissioner Duffy, Ms. Shavardi would like to answer that question.
Yeah,
Please.
Sean, and I and my husband, we've taken, we put extra signage up since the incident. We've reminded ourselves about the problems of identifying people with masks. Features you couldn't use before, you have to be, just card everybody. And that's what we're doing.
Okay, thank you very much for answering the question. And I recognize the fact that it was an old case, but
it happened.
Moving forward in the future, I appreciate the answer and thank you very much.
Well put, thank you.
Mr. W, any additional questions?
No, I have no additional questions. Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Bittner, is there anything you'd like to add, sir, before we turn it over to the board for discussion and deliberation?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and impose a fine of $500, combining both counts plus court costs. And I am looking for a second on this.
I second the motion. $500.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Happy New Year once again, and please stay
Same to
safe.
you.
Thank you, Detective.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. You're excused.
Thank you.
The next case will be Kurtz's Beach, known as Kurtz's Beach LTD. John D. Mason, President and Treasurer, Bonnie K. Kurtz, Vice President and Secretary. There's no restrictions. This is an AABWF Special Beer Wine Festival for 2070 Kurtz's Avenue, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. October 15th, 16th of 2022, between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor with music and Sunday license privileges. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Okay, Mr. Mason, I see you. Is anyone else testifying besides you, sir?
Just myself.
Okay. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record, Mr.
I'm John D. Mason, 2017 Old Home Avenue, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fraley.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Mason, thanks for coming out tonight. This is your opportunity to present your case to the board, sir. So why don't you just go ahead and let the board know what you're planning.
Well, as we've done in the last 7 years, the special license allows us to be able to sell wine and have it consumed. So the festival is our benefactor is BWMC Tate Cancer Center. This past year, we were able to raise $13,000 for them. Our attendance was a little bit lower than 2019, but it's just a great way to support a good cause. And having the sale of wine on premises and being able to have it served or removed makes a big difference. Is really the way we're able to donate the money to the hospital.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions for Mr. Mason about this event?
I don't have any questions. I obviously think the event's terrific and certainly wish you well moving
Thank
forward. But, yeah.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions of Mr. Mason?
No, sir.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Mason, anything you'd like to add, sir, before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision?
No, we appreciate your consideration and the ability to do it. We get a great deal of commentary from patrons that come back year to year. The fact that we're able to offer more than just Maryland wines, it draws in a lot of people from Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, which we're always happy to showcase in around the county. So thank you for being a team member with all that.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application for the Beer and Wine Festival. And I'm looking for a second.
I second the motion to grant the license.
Okay, it is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Good luck. And it's a great
Thank
thing. Thank you.
Good luck.
So much.
Thank you. You're
Thank you.
dismissed.
Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next case, ex-Golf Pasadena, Chip and Putt LLC. David John Hofler is president. This is a new license for 8048 Ritchie Highway, Suite 6C, Pasadena, Maryland, 21122. They're requesting a Class D license on sale only for beer, wine, and liquor, entertainment, and Sunday privileges. Anyone wishing to testify for or against, please raise your right hand. Okay. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is David J. Huffler. I reside at 1158 Indian Landing Road, Millersville, Maryland.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Praley.
All right, counsel, this is your opportunity to present your case to the board. I'll have you introduce yourself before you do that. And if you can present your case by way of testimony, proffer, or a combination of both.
Thank you, Mr. Braley. Erin McAuliffe here on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Hofler, we're here on an application for a new Class D beer, wine, liquor, plus entertainment and Sunday license for Chip and Putt LLC, trading as ex-Goth Pasadena. If you would, please state your name and address again, just for the record.
My name is David Huffler. Address 1158 Indian Landing Road, Millersville, Maryland.
Thank you. Are you a citizen of the United States?
I am.
Are you a resident of Anne Arundel County?
I am.
How long have you resided in Anne Arundel County?
53 years.
Are you a registered voter of Anne Arundel County?
I am.
Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
I have not.
Have you ever been found guilty of violating laws governing the sale of alcoholic beverages or for the prevention of gambling in the state of Maryland?
I have not.
Have you ever had a license for the sale of alcoholic beverages?
I have not.
Do you own any other businesses in Anne Arundel County that have a license?
No other businesses that have a liquor license.
Thank you. What is your position with Chip and Putt LLC trading as ex-Goth Pasadena?
I am the president and managing member.
What is your percentage interest?
50% interest.
Thank you. Do you have a copy of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the rules and regulations?
Yes.
If this application is approved, will you make certain that all employees comply with all laws and regulations relating to the license?
Yes.
Have you received alcohol awareness training?
I have.
And I believe we've submitted a copy of your certificate to the board already. If not, we will run that again. What will the hours of operation for ex-Goth Pasadena be?
Monday through Thursday, the hours will be 9 in the morning till 10 at night. Friday and Saturday, the hours will be 9 in the morning until 11 at night. And Sundays will be 9 in the morning until 10 at night.
Thank you. And how old do you have to be before you can purchase beer, wine, or liquor?
21.
What age must an employee be to sell beer, wine, or liquor?
An employee that is a server or waitress must be 18, bartender must be 21.
Thank you. What are the 5 acceptable forms of identification?
We have a state-sponsored driver's license, state-issued identification card, passport, federal-issued immigration card. And a passport, immigration card. I'm sorry, the last one is slipping my mind at the moment.
Okay, cool. That's all right. How long are you required to keep complete records of purchases and sales of food and beer, wine, and liquor?
2 years.
Thank you. Do you have any changes to the application that has been filed?
No changes.
Do you understand that as the sole licensee, you have obligations to this board to accept summonses and respond to any inquiry regarding the operation of Goth Pathadina?
I do.
You accept those responsibilities?
I do accept them.
Thank you. And I believe we submitted a copy of the menu, the proposed menu. I know you have mentioned additions. You could just briefly tell the board about the menu and the concept.
The menu that we have for Golf Pasadena is basically prepackaged type foods, your standard type bar foods. They're mainly put together and they're prepackaged, they're heated up in high-speed convection ovens. We are going to add some extra things to the menu, such as sandwiches, subs, along with salads, because I do believe people like a healthier choice of food, and the standard franchise issue food is not the healthiest food I believe in. So we will be adding other things, because generally people that are coming out to play golf are health conscious people. They're coming for the exercise as well as the entertainment. So we believe that will be a selling point for our place.
Could you talk briefly about the concept of
The concept of X-Golf. X-Golf is a United States franchise system. There are currently 33 X-Golfs around the United States. This will be the very first one in Maryland. We have simulators which allow you to play, not only doing your driving and your chipping and your putting, but allow you to play up to 94 different courses from around the world. These simulators are full-size simulators. You play with your own personal golf clubs, or if you do not have clubs, you're very new to the sport, we will rent you a set of clubs. But you will play this game of golf exactly like you would play it on a real course. You will drive that ball as hard as you possibly can at dead screen. You get full calculations of distance, speed, drift of the ball, spin, rotation, your club angle, your swing angle, everything that you need to make yourself a better golfer. And what we have at this franchise, we have 8 of these simulators, and as well, we're planning on putting in some mechanical putting greens. These are putting greens, instead of being like a static putting green where you would putt down a straight line, the floors actually move and levitate to give you the prescribed green that you want to practice on.
Thank you. At this point, that concludes my questioning of the applicant.
Okay, Ms. McAuliffe, is there anything you want to add before I see if the chairman or any of the commissioners have any questions of your client?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. You're planning to open in August? Is that what I understand?
No, sir. We're planning to open hopefully May 1st. We're looking at starting construction February 1st, and my general contractor is telling me he needs 90 days. Our building permit is currently in. We've gone through the first round of comments. I'm waiting for answers back the 14th of this week.
Okay, where is the closest X-Golf, would you say?
Closest X-Golf to Maryland is in a place called Garnett Valley, Pennsylvania. It's about 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia to the north. The next closest is Richmond, Virginia to the south.
Okay, so if you said your hours of operation are 9 to 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Thursday. So if I arrive at 9, I can play golf and order a beer or a drink cocktail or?
Yes, sir. For an individual to play one round of golf at any of those courses, it usually takes about an hour, because of course you don't have the walking anymore. If you're playing by yourself, it takes about an hour. These simulators have automatic teeing systems, so the balls are teed up. There's a control panel on the floor in front of each simulator, whether you either push it with your foot, push it with your club. We'll tee the ball up for you, and you go from there. You can adjust your club angle left or right as where you want to hit it. You can start back further, start back closer.
Interesting. And how many players would you have?
At an individual simulator, you can have up to 6 players at a time.
Okay,
And there'll be 8 simulators.
a total of 8. Okay, interesting. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
I have no question. Thank you.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Smuggler, is there anything that you would like to add before we turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision?
Sure. Thank you. We just asked that the application be granted. As you can tell, applicant's very enthusiastic about the establishment. It's first of its kind in Maryland. I, for one, am very excited to try this out in the winter. It's very hard to play golf outside around here. So seems like a great addition, and we would ask that the board grant the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sounds like a plan to me. I'm just curious, do you have the Masters at Augusta as a
You have
venue?
Augusta as one of the courses, yes.
And St. Andrews and all the,
Andrews is there as well as Pebble Creek. That's the famous ones that everybody seems to like.
what, just if you can, what's the range dollar wise that you're charging?
How much for the simulators or how much to play?
Yeah.
Okay, the simulators themselves cost $60,000 a piece. They oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, excuse me. To play, hours between 9 to 4 in the afternoon, any given day, are $45. From 4 o'clock to closing is $60.
Okay, great. All right, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the application. And I'm looking for a second.
I second the application.
Okay,
Second
the
approve.
second, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the motion is carried. Good luck.
Thank you,
And
sir.
hope you do well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. Okay, that looks like we're done.
Yep.
Confirmation on that one. Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn the hearing of January 11th, 2022.
This is Commissioner Duffy. I second the motion.
It's second, and all those in favor, scream aye.
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 It is. Okay.
Have a very
Everybody,
good night.
All right, thanks, guys. Everybody have a nice night.
you
Good
too.
night.
you.
Thanks.
Huh,
Take
good
care.
night.
Bye.